Anji, and welcome back. Today we're going to talk about the Premier League transfers. We're going to discuss about the top 7 teams and how their transfer window went. We're going to discuss about the incomings and the outgoings, and then I'll give my rating on their transfer window. So without further ado, let's hit the intro and I'll see you on the other side. Alright, let's start off with the defending champions Liverpool. They signed 3 players. They signed Tsimikas from Olympiacos, if I pronounced his name right. If not, then apologies. He's a left back who will play as a cover for Andy Robertson. And from what I've seen and from what I've heard is that he's a mini Robertson. So it was much needed because they didn't have a cover at left back. So Tsimikas came in from Olympiacos. The second signing was Diogo Jota from Wolves. He's a good little signing because Salah and Mane cannot play all of the matches because Liverpool are going to play in 4 competitions, actually 3 now because they're already out of the Carabao Cup. So Diogo Jota will provide a good cover, and he's a very good player as we've witnessed him in Wolves. And the third signing and their signing of the summer and probably the signing of the window is Thiago from Bayern Munich for £25 million only. He's one of the best midfielders in the world, and I especially really rate him, and he could be a game changer for them. As we have witnessed already against Chelsea, he just played for 45 minutes and he broke all the passing records in Premier League history. So these were the incomings, and the outgoings were, there were quite a few. They let go of Dejan Lovren, which is a good thing for Liverpool fans. They also let go of Kijana Hoover to Wolves in a deal that involved Diogo Jota. They let go of Adam Lallana to Brighton. He didn't sign a contract. And they let go of Loris Karius and Nathaniel Klein as well. So they've they've trimmed their squad. They've got rid of the deadwood, and it's been a good transfer window for them, which wasn't looking very likely because early on in the transfer window they weren't making any signings and there were no signs of any signings. But out of nowhere they signed 2 players, 2 high quality players, and they had a good transfer window. I'll rate it as 8 out of 10. Now we're going to talk about Manchester City. They made 3 signings, just like Liverpool. They signed Ferran Torres from Valencia, who is a winger. I'd call him similar to Bernardo Silva, and especially after a few outgoings, they needed that winger. So it is a good signing. He's a good little player. Apart from that, they signed Nathan Ake from Bournemouth. If I pronounce that right, Bournemouth, pata nahi kyun nikla. Anyways, Nathan Ake is a centre back and a left back, Premier League proven player. Although I do feel the transfer price is a bit high, but Guardiola wants it, Guardiola gets it. That's not a secret anymore. So Nathan Ake is a good player. They needed the cover on the left back position as well as the centre back position. And the third player they've signed is Ruben Diaz from Benfica. Again, the transfer fee is questionable, £62 million, but they did need a centre back because last season it was apparent that their defence was leaking too many goals. Emerick Laporte was injured for most of the season, so the centre back pairing of Eric Garcia and Fernandinho wasn't up to the mark. So they had to get in that player, and Ruben Diaz and Emerick Laporte can make up a good centre-back partnership. So they've made the signings that they required. They did let go of some players. Leroy Sané went on to Bayern Munich, who in my opinion is one of the best wingers in the world, and he was just too good under Guardiola. Anyways, he's moved on to Bayern Munich, which will be a loss to Manchester City. David Silva, the legend, didn't sign a new contract, so he moved on to Real Sociedad, and a few other insignificant outgoings as well, such as Claudio Bravo and stuff. Angelino moved on as well. All in all, they've made the signings that they required, and it has been a good transfer window for City. They haven't overspent that much as they usually do, but still a good transfer window for them. I'll rate this as an 8.5 out of 10. Now, from the blue half of Manchester to the red half of Manchester, we're gonna talk about Manchester United's transfer window. They signed a total of 5 players. One was Amad Traore and the other was Pelestrini, I guess. They're good, high-rated youngsters who won't feature for the first team this season. So I'm not going to waste my time talking about them. Anyways, they signed the other 3 players they signed were Donny van de Beek from Ajax, Edinson Cavani as free agent. He was at PSG last season, but he didn't sign a contract there. And the third player was Alex Telles from Porto. So the 3 signings that they made, let's talk about Donny van de Beek. He's a good player. I really rate him. He was wonderful at Ajax, but I don't think United needed him at their club, especially if they had Pogba and Bruno Fernandes, because he's you can call him a hybrid between the two. So they didn't require his signing. What they did need was to cover for Nemanja Matic or to replace him. They didn't do that. So I wouldn't rate this as a I wouldn't rate this signing too highly. Apart from that, Edinson Cavani is one striker they needed. Although he may be 33 years old, but he still got it. He's a wonderful striker. His work rate is very high. His finishing is top class, and he can teach their youngsters a thing or two. Especially it's an upgrade on Odion Ighalo as well. So it is a good signing. Apart from that, Alex Telles is their most exciting signing for me because Luke Shaw and Brandon Williams were not up to the mark. Most of their goals conceded come from the left-hand side, so they did need to bring in quality over there. So Alex Telles is a good signing. They did let go of some players. One significant outgoing was Chris Smalling to AS Roma, who was in Roma last season and didn't feature this season. So it's a good deal to balance the books for United. But all in all, it is a disappointing window according to United standard. They didn't fill in the gaps. They didn't replace Nemanja Matic. They didn't bring in a good quality defender to complement Harry Maguire. They didn't bring in their number 1 target, Jadon Sancho. So all in all, it was disappointing, and I'd rate this window as 7 out of 10. Now we're going to talk about the biggest spenders in this transfer window. They've made some huge signings. They've brought in Ben Chilwell from Leicester City, Kai Havertz from Bayer Leverkusen, Timo Werner from RB Leipzig, Hakim Ziyech from Ajax, Edouard Mendy from Rennes, Malang Sarr from Nice, and Thiago Silva from PSG. So they've brought in high quality signings. They've let go of some players as well, which aren't too significant. They've sent them out on loan. Apart from that, they did release Pedro and Willian. Willian and Pedro didn't sign a contract at Chelsea, so they went on to Arsenal and Roma respectively. But let's talk about their signings. Thiago Silva, let's start off with him. I do feel he's a wonderful defender. He's world class, but I feel that Chelsea should have upgraded on him. Thiago Silva, do not bash me in the comments. He's a wonderful player. He's achieved lots of stuff throughout his career. But there are 2 things that I would like to talk about. First is his age. He's 35 and he's going to play his first season in the Premier League. But it usually doesn't matter to players of his caliber. And the second thing that I would like to talk about is the language barrier, because he doesn't speak a word of English. So this could raise a question mark, but I feel he's got quality. Apart from that, Kai Havertz, Timo Werner, and Hakim Ziyech are wonderful signings. They're all great players, so I wouldn't comment too much on that. Ben Chilwell, they needed a left back because Marcus Alonso and Emerson were not up to the mark. They spent the cash, they got Ben Chilwell, he's an English international, and he plays he's one of the best left backs in the league. And the most important signing they made was of Edouard Mendy, because Kepa Arrizabalaga was just garbage and they definitely needed an upgrade on him. So Edouard Mendy, in my opinion, is their most important signing. They've made all the right moves. They should have gotten a better centre back in my opinion, but still he's a great players. So I'd rate their transfer window as 9 out of 10. Now we're going to talk about Leicester City. They made 3 signings. They signed Cengiz Under from Roma, Timothy Castagne from Atalanta, and Wesley Fofana from Saint Etienne. So they've made 3 high quality signings, although they're not that big names in football, but they're really good players and with tons of potential. They did let go of Ben Chilwell to Chelsea, which managed to balance their books. So Leicester have had a solid transfer window, and I'd rate it as 7.5. Now we're going to talk about Tottenham. I really don't want to talk about him, but I have to, and I really hate to admit it, but they have had a good transfer window. They've brought in high quality players. They've brought in Gareth Bale, who's world class from Real Madrid. They've brought in Sergi Reguilon, who's a great left back. They've brought in Matt Doherty as their right back, Joe Hart from Burnley, or probably a free agent. They've brought in Pierre-Emile Højbjerg from Southampton and Carlos Vinicius from Benfica. They've let go of some players as well. Jan Vertonghen did not sign a contract extension, so he left for Benfica. But all in all, they've had a good transfer window. Gareth Bale, Harry Kane, and Heung-min Son can make a fearsome front three. Pierre-Emile Højbjerg is an upgrade on Harry Winks, I feel, because I don't think Harry Winks deserves a place in their team. Højbjerg is a good defensive midfielder. Reguilon is one left back they needed because Ben Davies, in my opinion, is not up to the mark, and Danny Rose is exiled. So Matt Doherty is an upgrade on Serge Aurier, but they can switch. Mourinho has a choice to switch between those two depending on the opposition, so it provides him with depth as well. All in all, Tottenham's transfer window has been solid, and I'd rate it as 9. Now we're going to talk about Arsenal, my team. Arsenal were active in the transfer market, although they did not get their number 1 transfer target, which is Houssem Aouar. Reports have been coming in that his agent was demanding a lot of fee. But anyways, they did manage to sign some other players. They signed Willian from Chelsea for free. They signed Gabriel Magalhaes from Lille for £27 million, I feel, or 22, one of those. And they signed a backup goalkeeper, Runar Alex Rudiger from Dijon for £1.5 million. And finally, they signed Thomas Partey for £45 million on deadline day. So they've had a strong transfer business incomings, because Gabriel, I feel, is already Arsenal's best defender. He's played wonderfully in the 3 games he's played. Willian is a good experienced signing. He's Premier League proven. He can track back. His work rate is excellent, and he does have that flashes of brilliance. And Thomas Partey is what Arsenal needed for so long. They've been in contact with him from 2018, and they finally signed him on deadline day. They did let go of some players. Henrik Mkhitaryan was released. He moved on to Roma. Sam Greenwood, the academy player, went on to Leeds for $3 million. They sent out Matteo Guendouzi on loan to Hertha Berlin. Lucas Torreira to Atletico Madrid on loan. Emi Martinez was sold to Aston Villa for $20 million. But they couldn't get rid of players they wanted to get rid of, such as Socrates, Mustafi, Kolasinac, Ozil, so they weren't able to move them on. But all in all, it was a good transfer window. They made the signings that they required. Although they did miss out on one target, I feel they did need that creative player. But hopefully, if Partey and Xhaka can play, so Ceballos or Willian or Saka can play in that hole. So they've got plenty of cover in that position. All in all, I'll rate the transfer window as 8 out of 10. Now let's talk about the blue side of Merseyside. Everton, they've had a terrific transfer window, and they've signed in players according to the requirements of the manager. They've backed him. Ancelotti, we all know, is a wonderful manager, and to back him with such players is a sign of intent from Everton. So they've signed in James Rodriguez from Everton, Alan from Napoli, Abdoulaye Doucouré from Watford, Ben Godfrey from Norwich City, and Robin Olsen from Roma as a backup goalkeeper. They've also let go of some players, most notably Theo Walcott went on loan to his childhood club Southampton, and Moise Kean went out on loan to PSG. Anyways, let's talk about Everton a bit because they've been on a roll. They've won 4 matches out of 4. James Rodriguez has been running the show. Alan and Doucouré have been solid signings in the midfield as well. Now, Robin Olsen, they've signed from Roma as a backup goalkeeper. He'll provide competition to Pickford, who I feel is not a good keeper. He's a dive merchant in my opinion. Pickford will have competition now. He'll have to up his game, and Robin Olsen will be knocking on the door. And they've signed Ben Godfrey as a backup centre back. Yerry Mina and Michael Keane have been great so far, but Ben Godfrey and Mason Holgate, they make a fearsome quartet of centre backs in their squad. So if one of them gets injured, we know that Ben Godfrey and Mason Holgate are capable of filling the gap. They have a wonderful team. Calvert-Lewin and Richarlison are in great form. They've got Sigurdsson on the bench. They've got Andre Gomez in the midfield as well. Iwobi and Bernard can come off the bench as well as the backup wingers. So Everton have got a good squad. They've made some terrific signings. They're clearly the winners of this transfer window. I'd rate it as 9.5 out of 10. So this was it for this video. In the next videos, I'm going to do a detailed squad analysis of these 7 teams, as well as I'm going to look into some other leagues as well. Now, if you did like this video, hit on that like button, subscribe to my channel, share with your friends. I'm going to see you next time. Until then, Allah Hafiz.